Hello, good evening, and welcome to everyone. And hello to you too, Alex.
Hi.
Now, don't panic. It's just for today. Marcos is not around, so I'm filling in just for today. He'll be back next week. So I hear today we've got a very special lesson. Okay, so Marcos finished the fundamentals course as usual. And from what I hear, when he asked me to fill in, said, look, today there's a special lesson. It's questions and answers. And anyone can answer. Anyone can ask anything with respect to what we've studied. All right. So within the fundamentals course, or if there's any other question that's related to Kabbalah, that's also fine. So not to panic. So any questions you've got today with respect to all the fundamentals lesson, plus anything related to Kabbalah, how we study, what our framework is, you're more than welcome to ask. Now that you know that this is a question and answer session, I'm pretty sure you guys got an email beforehand anyway, so I'd be very happy if anybody did the preparation to shoot straight away. But if you don't have questions straight away, we can always do a little recap of the fundamentals course. So in the interim, until questions do come through, what we can do is just see how we can move forward after this fundamentals course. All right, if you guys think that's okay. And if not, if you've got any other ideas, let me know as well. Okay, so this is like we're going to go free-floating Kabbalah today. It's going to be like a jam session Kabbalah, all right? So what we want to do, we finished the fundamentals course and how we're going to move on from here. Now, your next course, which is the intermediate course, is going to start later on. And I think there's an announcement for that at the end of the lesson. So after that, you can take on the intermediate course. And I'm pretty well you're all aware that we've got lessons every day. Rav, Dr. Lightman, writes blog posts every day with respect to not just spirituality as well, our daily life as well. Because Kabbalah, as you know, is not just about, well, it is all about our soul, but it's also all about how we're using this world in order to develop that special sense, that special vessel of perceiving the Creator or developing our soul. All right? So everything related to that, we can shoot today. Alex, if there is a question that does pop up, you just shoot them straight away.
I will let you know.
Is there one now? Because I see Scott from the UK is very fast on the trigger.
Yeah, Scott is very... Okay, we will have the same instructor for the intermediate course. It's the first question.
Will you have... I do believe the intermediate course might be given by somebody else, but that shouldn't be a worry. In fact, that's a good thing. Okay, there is a specific reason for why we change instructors. It's not just for the benefit of the student, it's also for the benefit of the lecturer as well. Okay, because when we're lecturing, there is a danger sometimes that a lecturer becomes too attached to the students, or the student becomes too attached to the lecturer, and both things are not good. Okay, the way you should take a lecture is like this. I have a guy who's presenting to me a certain information from authentic sources, and that should give me a direction of where I want to go and how I want to get to that direction, to that goal. Okay, so instructors, whether they change or they don't change, is really irrelevant. The more they change actually is better for you, because what you'll get to discover is that you'll be able to, you'll be able to squeeze more out, more rich details. You'll be able to enrich yourself more when you have more instructors. So it's probably going to change, but it's a good thing. Definitely a good thing. Yes? Anything else?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Yeah, not yet.
Okay. So maybe we can touch on a few topics at the intermediate level. Now, I know that Marcos touched on the most fundamental things. And Marcos is a very good instructor. He probably nailed freedom of will you guys did?
Yeah, freedom of will.
Freedom of will, perception of reality.
Yeah.
He already obviously explained what is the wisdom of Kabbalah and what it is and what it isn't, and all those kind of details. So maybe we can actually touch on a little bit of free will, because that's a really, really big topic. It's a huge topic. While you guys got questions coming in, maybe we can touch on free will. Now, the most fundamental thing in Kabbalah is a thing called the environment. Actually, environment, as most people in the world now as well, also marketing experts talk about this, a person's a product of the environment. So if I want to advance in anything in life, the one thing that I really need to take care of is my surrounding. As an old proverb says, tell me who your friend is, and I will tell you who you are. So the most important thing for us is how to develop an environment in order to advance spiritually. And one of the most important things about that is friends, okay? Because why do I need friends? Why do I need to make a specific choice about selecting friends? Especially we've got this, I'm not sure if you guys are aware, we'll see in the announcements as well, but often a lot of the friends get together, we come together also a few times a year here and there. And what we like to do is get to know each other. Get to apply practical Kabbalah. What we learned in the lessons, what we learned from the books, what we took, what we absorbed into some kind of a practical application. And this is only possible in between friends, in between people. Because if you also look at our life, right, our development is always due to our interaction with society. I learn things, I do things, I want things, I see different things, everything that builds me as an individual, as a person, all my thoughts, desires come from that interaction with the environment. And at the end of the day, that environment molds me up into something. So if I want to now get spiritual, and if I want to develop a soul, and if that starting point is that spark in the heart, that dot in the heart that we talk about, I obviously need to do something to enlarge it. And one of the best things for that is a study group. Now, let's talk about that free will environment a little bit. Okay, because actually the reason I chose free will is something that we're covering it as a topic, but if you think about it, it's actually every moment of my development, I have a choice to apply that rule. Okay, so that's why it's very important for us. And until any other question pops up, we can touch that free will point. So here is me. Okay, obviously me is not the body, but the dot in the heart. Okay, and what I have here is a goal. Now this goal, call it the creator, call it achieving perfection, call it the attribute of love, call it the attribute of bestowal, it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, I want to get somewhere which I have no idea about. Okay, which is pretty much like our life here, because when a child grows up, he has no idea what he's going to end up being. I mean, he wants to be a fire engine driver, fire truck driver, and then he ends up being something completely different, like a lawyer or an accountant or something like that. Okay, so just like a kid has no idea about what's going to happen, we also start to develop spiritually. We also don't have the slightest idea about what we're heading for, but there is an inner inspiration to find this purpose of life, which the Kabbalists talk about, called bestowal, love. It's all a bit airy-fairy. But at the end of the day, because we have an aspiration, we have an inclination to go upwards in order to attain that from our dot in the heart. In order for me to do that, I have to make a choice about how and what to use in order to get there. So, what am I going to use? Well, any questions there, Alex?
Yeah, of course. I would like to tell about this. Okay, Scott from UK, this is very good questions here.
Yeah.
How can we develop environment, honor and lust within our virtual group?
Okay.
Basically, how can we develop
okay, that's good. So it's coming to, okay, this is exactly what I was just starting to talk about, the group. Okay, so the question once again is, how can we develop envy, honor, and lust within our virtual group? Well,
that's right.
Everything depends on how I see my friends, to see what they're doing. All right, I look at my friends and I see them doing things. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean I have to be with them in a physical group. Okay, let's think about it. Here, I want to get to the goal. Okay, So here I've got a group. And Scott is asking, how am I going to use envy, honor, and lust in order to develop further? Well, all these things I can only take from the group. Why? Because I develop from the environment. Okay, all these things, envy, honor, lust, I can only add these things if I have a group that implies that through the things they do, I can build that. Now, what's envy? It means I have to be jealous. I've got to be jealous of what, though? If I have a friend who wants to get to a goal, and I see he's working really hard, he's enthusiastic, he's happy, joyful, the first thing I see is like, well, wait a minute, what's going on? I'm studying, he's studying, look at him and look at me. I'm not so energetic, I'm not so having fun or whatever, okay? At the end of the day, envy is something I can get from the group. If I look at my friends, I see them advancing. I see them doing things. All right? That is going to be something I get from the group. The group won't give you that. Actually, a lot of people say, what does the group give me? Nothing. The group's just a bunch of guys who's studying a wisdom. So I have to extract it from them. Okay, and that's a very crucial point. Because a lot of people come to the group and expect things to happen. It won't. Expect things to change. They won't. You've got to put yourself under the influence of the group. Okay? And to get under the influence of anything, I've got to kind of nullify myself. Now, nullification isn't like, I don't know, doing whatever they tell me to do. No. It's just, I get in there and I start seeing what they're doing. I start looking at how they work between them. I start looking for how they begin to work with the material, I don't know, do things in order to advance anything, even having a meal together with the guys, even, having a glass of wine or a beer in order to increase the importance of the goal, okay, can bring me envy. Okay? Now, I can be envious of my friends for that, if I see they're really striving for the importance of the goal. How can I get honor from the group? Well, that depends on your investment. Okay? Because a person who invests in the group, what happens is the more you invest, the more knowledge you get. Okay? The more you invest in the group values you more. So you're more valued. The more you invest into the group, you become more, known. Okay? And these are things that make a person really honored. If people know me, I'm teaching, or if I'm translating something, if I'm working towards the goal, I don't know, anything. If I'm writing articles for the 99%, if I'm doing things to increase the consciousness of general humanity, I'm doing things to increase the bonding between the friends, and the friends see that, and they think, wow, that's just great. So that gives me confidence, which builds honor in me. It's honor towards the goal. Don't mix this up with pride, because pride is something very dangerous, okay? And it's a thin piece of ice which you don't want to step on. But honor is something, I do this for the group, and I help them to advance, and that's good. And the group values that too. Okay? But it's all towards the goal. Every calculation I make is always in one straight line. I am with my friends in order to get to the goal, which is to bestow to the Creator. All right? So doing good to the group is a tool. It's a means to an end. All right? It's not the goal.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. What?
Tina from US asks, how important it is to learn the Hebrew terms? If I need to learn them, how should I go about that?
Learning Hebrew terms is not important at all, actually. What's important is the yearning, which is actually, which I'm going to come to now, which I was just about to get to. Scott's last point here is lust. How can I use lust? What's lust? Lust is I've got a yearning for something. We understand that the whole of creation is a desire to receive. And if I don't have a desire for the Creator, I'm never going to get the Creator. In order for me to get the Creator, I've got to be lustful. It's like, how do you say it? It's going mad with love. Okay? I don't know if there's an English term for it, actually. But there's a term like that, okay? It's like a guy who loses his mind over a girl. He is just head over heels. That's it. Head over heels. Okay? And that, once again, I get from the group. Because if I see the group's yearning, their efforts, their desire, I see that they're all like fire. I see them all running around trying to get to this goal. And same with me. I'm trying to do everything in my power in order to get my goal. Okay, in order to get what I want, actually. In order to do that, I've got to build a desire. Okay? Now, lust, honor, and envy, all these things help me build a kli, a desire where I can receive the Creator's light. Now, coming back to that question from, who asked about the Hebrew terms? I'm sorry.
From Tina from the US.
Tina from the US. Do you need to know the Hebrew terms? Not necessarily. We could be studying Kabbalah in Chinese. It won't matter. What matters is I build a desire to attain the goal. Okay? So you could do all your reading in English. Doesn't matter. Because through the study, through helping friends, through connecting with people, I build that desire for the Creator. And the Creator doesn't care what language we talk. If He cared about the language we spoke, there wouldn't be so many languages. He cares about the language of the heart. Because the Creator feels the heart, as the Kabbalists say. So this is a very important topic. It's a very nice question. You don't need to know at all. If you want to learn, if you have a special desire to learn, that's also not a problem. But it's not a must. Okay?
Okay. Jane from UK. How would I describe myself to others who ask about my beliefs? I know it is not a religion, but I no longer know how to respond if someone asks this. How do I express to someone that I'm trying to follow a spiritual path with the study of the Kabbalah?
All right, that's a good question. Well, first of all, if you can avoid it, don't say anything. Okay? I'll tell you why. Especially at work environment, when I'm working with colleagues and things like that, we never talk about Kabbalah. First of all, they think we're all nuts. Okay? Humanity is looking at us thinking we're nuts. We're looking at them thinking they're nuts. So there's not going to be really any seeing eye to eye there at all. So if you can avoid it, just say nothing. If anyone asks about your religious beliefs, or, you can say, you can say something to just go off track, or you can just cut it short. But if I were you, it's the same advice I got from my teacher. It's the same advice that we all get from Dr. Lightman is, guys, keep your spirituality to yourselves. There's also a very, very deep thing behind that. It's not just a simple question of, we don't need to discuss it with anyone. But spirituality is actually a connection with the Creator. And it's something very, very personal. Actually, sometimes it's described as a relationship between a man and between a husband and wife. Just like we don't discuss our relationships with others, okay, when we're married, if we have a spouse, we don't discuss our inner family dealings with other people because it's not any of their business. Same thing here, all right? So if anybody asks, try not to go there in that direction. Try to change the topic. If they really, really insist, they're shaking you up, what do you believe in? Just say, I believe in whatever you want me to believe in, all right?
Yeah. Drew from US. It is written that we have no soul until the end of the correction. Can you explain what is until the end of the correction?
Okay, that's a very nice question. We don't have a soul, you're right. At the end of the day, if we had one, we'd feel it, by the way. Okay, and our whole problem in Kabbalah is actually to build one. That's our goal. Okay, this is why it's such a scientific thing. We have to build one here, and it's fun. Now the Creator gives us all just a dot in the heart, but at the end of the day, when He first created in infinity, the Creator, well, I'm sure Marcos drew this model for you. When He first created us, He only actually created one soul. And we all read about it, right? Everybody knows about the story of Adam and Eve. And before Eve came along, Adam was just a single guy wandering in the Garden of Eden and having, a nice little walk in the park, no dramas, no problems whatsoever. He felt absolute perfection. Okay? So now, having felt that perfection in its initial creation, when it was first created, that is actually the soul. There's only one soul. But when He descended to this world, let's draw it like this, He lost complete touch. What happened? He lost His consciousness. Okay? And this is why we've got the worlds, Adam Kadmon, Atzilut, Bria, Yitzra, Asya. And then we've got this world. Okay? This world. And the Kabbalists say His soul, this one soul, shattered into many bits and pieces. So this is why in our world we find ourselves with 7 billion people on the planet. Okay? So if you think about it, there's all these people, 7 billion people in the world. And amongst them, there's a group of guys who are wondering about the purpose of life, why we're living, and that's the point in the heart. Now when that awakens, we have an aspiration to find our soul, because we feel that there's something lacking. But the rest of humanity doesn't feel like they have a soul that's lacking. They either have their religious beliefs, or they either have their normal day-to-day lives without their religious beliefs. At the end of the day, they live in a way where they're not really seeking to find the purpose of life. They're not really seeking to find who created them, why, and what He wants from us. Okay? So because we have such an aspiration, the Creator gathers us all together. Right? As some of the passages says, what does the Creator say? I've chosen you amongst all the people. So from all the people around the world, we've got friends from all around the world who've got their dots in the heart awakened. And they're with us studying so we can find a soul. What is actually to find our soul is to actually build one. If the Creator only made one soul, He created only one soul, and He called him Adam, and this one soul was broken into bits and pieces in this world, well, in order for us to get back to this, we have to kind of work on that a little bit. All right? So we can all climb up. By bringing all of the parts of humanity together into one soul, okay, all of us together into one connection. Okay, let's call it connection in the meantime rather than soul. Let's call it a connection. So we all build a connection between us, which is an inner connection. And the connection between the dots in the heart, actually, let me do that a bit colored. Okay, let's add a bit of spice into our lives. Okay, all these connections between the dots in the hearts, okay? When they all connect together in an attribute called bestowal, then this is where we all end up again in full consciousness, though. All right? Here, Adam didn't have any consciousness. That's why Eve had to come along. He had to push him to eat from the apple. Then the snake came about. They got kicked out from heaven. They came here. Why? This is all a process to develop that consciousness about what we are and what we need to become. So for us to build that soul, once again, we have to go back up. And that's called the final correction, when all of us, right, get back here. That's why the sages say, you all belong to me. The Kabbalist says that everyone will know the Creator, from the oldest to the youngest. This means that we all have to go back up. And when we're all back here, we're still maintaining our individuality, okay? Which means that individual dot in the heart. I'm not talking anything about our corporeal existence. That dot in the heart. But that dot in the heart now feels every other dot in the heart like a part of its own body, like a part of its own soul. Okay, that's why also in our body, right? If you look at our body, it's got a lot of parts in it. We've got all the organs, the tendons, the blood veins, the blood cells, everything. It's all a complicated system, okay, just one body in itself. So what happens is when we all correct those parts and make it a nice, functional model, let's say, that becomes one soul. It becomes a feeling of one soul in that world of infinity, as they say. All right? And that's what it is. That's what the final correction is. When all the dots in the heart, when everybody's dots in the heart comes there, regardless of the population could be 7 billion or it could be 50 billion, it doesn't matter. Okay?
Okay, Diana from Miami Beach. I thought that honor, pride, etc. are egoistic things that we didn't want. So please explain why this is a good thing.
It's a good thing if I'm using it towards the goal.
Exactly.
Okay? It's not good if I want to build myself on the ruin of others. It's not good if Mr. John has greener grass on his front yard than me, and now I go in the middle of the night and dig up his front yard and pour acid all over his grass because I'm envious of it. Okay? Because that's destructive. There is nothing evil in the world, okay? The problem is we just don't know how to use it for the better. That's our problem. And that's why in Kabbalah, the only thing that needs to change in order to flip our perception of reality is to change our intention. Instead of building myself on the ruin of others, I build myself by building others. Okay, and that's a very key important thing, because we generally do this. We do this with our children. It's embedded in nature. It's nothing weird, right? If we have children, we give them the best we can. We try to develop them. We try to give them the best education. We try to give them everything so that they can develop into something great, into something smart, wise, strong, everything. We want to give them everything. Now think about it this way. My spiritual development depends on building the spirituality of my friends. So I'm using all these things actually for one very good reason. To give me some strength in order that I can help others. So if we can just flip that way of thinking, and I can say to myself, well, wait a minute. I'm actually getting strength from my friends when I see how hard they work. I'm actually envious of them. They find strength, they find energy, they have a desire to do something. And that influences me to do something back for them. All right? And this is actually a reciprocal process. I do something, they see me doing something, they do something, I see them doing something. It goes back and forth, and the whole group becomes like a dough. You're just trying to make bread out of it. So you're mixing it all together. You're really, really turning it into something ready to be baked in the oven. All right? And that's why. So everything in the world can be used for good. Even our worst desires. Sometimes people ask, I've got some horrific desires in me that are just popping up and I don't know what to do with them. Don't do anything with them. There's nothing we can do about it. Okay? But what we can do for the moment is just put them aside and focus on what we want to do. Just like in normal life. If I want to attain, for example, a profession. All right, let's say I want to be a doctor. What do? I'm amongst doctors, all right? And amongst other doctors or other doctor students or medical students, I see them doing things. All of a sudden, I want to start doing things as well. I want to start operating. I want to start learning about other things as well. Why? Because it's the environment. So we can use the environment for positive development. And then any desire I have will not be for worse. It will always be for the good.
Dwayne from North Carolina, please explain the illusion of our five senses and the true reality.
Well, that's a really nice question, and I love a bit of perception of reality questions. Okay, now, five senses. The perception of reality is a tricky topic. The reason it's tricky is because, well, first of all, we don't really understand it, because we don't see the other part of reality. Now, because I don't see the other half of reality, well, the greater part of reality, I really don't know what's going on in life. I am just led to believe through my five senses that there is something existing outside of me, which is called this world, which scientists are in fact saying is reflected at the back of my head. Well, let's say this is my head, and it's the back of my head. Let's say there's like a TV screen here. And everything I perceive gets into a processor called my brain. Just like in a computer, in order to give me a picture called this world. Now, dogs, they also have five senses. A cow, a horse, they also have the senses that we have. Most animals do. But they don't really perceive reality like we do. For example, snakes, they only see, well, they don't see anything. They only feel the heat through their tongues. But they've got eyes, and in fact, they've got ears as well. But it's like redundant. So they see something completely different. Bees, for example, they see a world completely differently. Dogs, they see it all blurry. That's why they have to come up to you and sniff you to really confirm that you're the owner. Okay? Because their smell works better than their sight. So all these animals in the world, it's not a wonder that they perceive reality differently. And it's not a wonder that science is discovering that everything and everyone actually perceives something completely different. Okay? So we're left with the question, well, what am I perceiving? We can only describe our perception of reality. If we've got non-defective five senses, we can perceive reality in what we call a common reality. And we can interpret that common reality with respect to our traits, personality, character, in order to ascribe to it or give it to a definition in feeling. All right? Because, for example, for some people, a table is an artistic craft work. You know, you've got designers, industrial designers who make these tables. They draw them, they outline them, and they do all kinds of things. You've got these carpenters who spend hours putting shapes into these authentic furniture and so on. Why? Because for them, a table is like an art. For us, I just put a piece of paper, a computer, and I don't even take notice of it. Okay? So we see things that are common in the world, but our approach to them, the way we feel them, the way we get an impression from them, are always different to everybody else. So although we have our five common senses, the way we feel reality and the way we get impressed from reality is different for everyone. And these five senses are actually a limiting thing for us. This is why we want to build that soul. Within these five senses, we can't really tell what's outside in our world if there is something like that or not, actually. Just like a bee can't tell whether there is something outside it except the direction it follows from the radio waves. Actually, in fact, there was a nice movie about the bees. You know, they've got all these new mobile phone antennas everywhere. Now, because bees are following waves all the time to find their direction, they find that these mobile telephone receivers and so on are disturbing those waves. So now the bees are disappearing. So we can't really tell if there's something out there or not, to be honest with you. And so the Kabbalists say, well, there isn't actually, but you can't really know about that unless you find out the other side of reality. And the other side of reality is actually who is making us see this world like the way we see it. Okay? And that is the Creator. That's why we have to build another receptor, another, let's do that, okay, another sense in order to feel that, which is the Creator, all right, or call it the light, the Creator, whatever you like, okay, whatever rolls your boat. There you go. That is called a soul. Okay? That way, I've got two perceptions. One inside my soul. I'm feeling exactly where everything is coming from. And I know the cause and, whoops. Let's do this. And consequence. All right. It's a bit of a touchy topic because until we build that soul, that extra sensory organ, it's very hard to explain. That's why the group is so important here, because actually my first connection of building that, because this is the whole of humanity, right? I drew here the whole of humanity. But if you take the group, which is a part of this humanity, these guys who come to that connection amongst them, okay, if they're already there, they already have a soul. They have a partial soul. Okay? Just think about it this way. I can have no eyes, okay, but then I can have one eye. It's better than not having any. Okay? So these guys already have an understanding, oh my God, there is something there. Okay? And that's why that group is so important, because once we connect those dots in the heart, we've got a fundamental basis to sense something. It might not be two eyes, but it's a good one eye that we can afford to use. All right?
Dave from Oregon. Well, the spiritual development that I realized from studying of the wisdom of Kabbalah allows me to become more understanding and tolerant of the society that we now live in.
It will. It will, because the whole of the wisdom of Kabbalah is actually understanding the whole of creation, which means understanding laws of human nature and laws of nature in animate, vegetative, and the still level. So if I have a complete understanding of everything, I'll understand how the society works. If I understand how the people outside are living, I can integrate myself into anything without any problem at all. He had another point there. Was it patience or knowledge? Okay.
No.
No?
You're talking about the same question?
Yeah.
It's right here. I'm just going through it. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just going through it, and I can find this. I can find it's still here.
It's okay.
Hold on a sec.
But basically,
well, the spiritual development that I realized from the studying of the Kabbalah allows me to become more understanding and tolerant of the.
Absolutely. So that understanding gives you the ability to make a right approach. Okay, just like we're patient with our children because we understand that they're not going to, grow and become understanding overnight. So they cry, they scream, they run around, they break glasses and vases and they're all kinds of stuff. But we understand it's a part of growing up, so we're tolerant. Okay, and that does happen, yes.
Yeah, that's a good question here. Martha from New Jersey, she said like this: you said there is no evil in the world. What about the Hitler and the Nazis?
I didn't say there's no evil in the world. Man is evil. Okay? That's for sure. Okay? That's a given fact. In fact, the Creator created nothing but evil. Okay, if we think about it, look, think of it this way. The Kabbalists are saying the Creator is good and benevolent. If He is good, and if He was in a state of full perfection, there's nothing really to create that's still going to be good, is it? I mean, if everything is perfect, there's nothing more there's no more extra I can do to make it perfect. So what did the Creator do? So He thought, oh, wait a minute, everything is perfect. I'll create something completely opposite. So He made man, okay, which is complete, utter evil, okay? But from complete, utter evil and from complete, utter perfection, which are two opposite things, we will get to understand and know the full reality. We'll have such a... It's a very nice question. It's a very deep question as well. It's a trick question, that one.
Yeah, that's why I chose it.
Okay. Look, here, in our world, man is complete evil. All right? The whole idea is to get him into perfection, to get him to become like the Creator. Okay? Now, the Kabbalists are saying everything you have in you is evil because you have an intention to use it for evil. Okay? But if I had an intention to use it for the good, then everything in me would be for the better. All right? So, from absolute evil to absolute love, I must attain the full scope of everything, the full dimension. And it's like, this is why actually it's like infinity. Endless bestowal and love against endless hate and destruction. But if I understand both of them, and if I understand what my intention, how my intention is ruining it, or if it's a good intention, building it, then I can use it. You can use anything for doing good. Okay? Our only problem is we have an egoistic nature. I want to use everything in life to be on top of others. I want to fulfill myself, being greater than others. On the ruin of others, we build ourselves. And that's why our world is a destructive world. But if we were to use, just like I answered a while ago, if we were to use all our attributes in order to build others, to advance others, then the possibility is endless.
Susanna from Toronto. How long have you been studying to be so knowledgeable and able to explain so clearly? I can add something. Basically, Susanna, I want to tell you that, first of all, I see you lots of times with us. You always here, every single time that we teach. I have to say that every single, as soon as you get deeper into this wisdom, and this is really, really something that makes me feel so high all the time. As soon as you go all the time deeper and deeper into this wisdom, you understand more, you feel more, and then you can also express that feelings that you feel to others. And this is exactly what Mutlu does right now. So please, maybe you can add something.
Actually, Susanna, the ability to do that also is from the intention. It's not like I have a special attribute and now it's going to be used in some way. Everything depends on the intention. That's why if we all use our ability to help others, to build others, to develop others towards the purpose of life, then that's the light really working on us. Okay, a lot of the things that we miss out when we study Kabbalah, we forget about, is the Creator, right? Which is something we must never take out of the equation. Now, as we study together in a group with all our friends, just like we're studying now, it's a virtual group, okay? But there is, as you can see from that question as well, there is a feeling amongst us, okay? That something is right. That there's a feeling amongst us that something is positive. And that sensation that we feel between us is the light of the Creator, okay? Coming from the Creator, okay? So everything is only possible if a person puts his intention right okay, towards the goal, and he keeps other people in front of him. So what we want to do always in Kabbalah is to come to bestowal and to love. So if we treat people towards the goal, okay, towards the purpose of creation, and we want to develop them and to build them, just like we build our children in this life, just like we want to give them everything we can, then the light of the Creator brings the understanding. How long do you need to study? It's not amount of time. It's the quality of effort that one puts into it. A lot of people ask, how long do I have to study? Do I need to be around, for years and years? No, you don't. Many of us here in the Learning Center that we teach have been with the group for a while. But it's not like half our lives, okay? Some of the guys have been only here for a few years, and they've already started teaching. Because when you're in an environment, the development is very fast. So that fast development, influenced also by the Creator's light, always advances a person in an exponential speed. And it's really exponential. The way we develop in Kabbalah is actually speeding up our process. Generality of humanity develops linearly. Okay? Maybe Marcos drew that with the desires of everything, still, vegetative, animate, and so on. This is how humanity develops. But when you start studying Kabbalah, you're developing like that. Okay? So all of a sudden you're like hitting rock. Well, not rock bottom. You're hitting the clouds. Okay, why? Because of the Creator's light. Okay, that works. The light influences. We don't really understand that. And the most difficult part in understanding Kabbalah logically to anyone is the light. Because that is the only illogical thing in this wisdom. That is the only thing that you just can't get your head around. What is this light? And then, once it starts working, you understand what it is. And then you begin to work with the light, with the friends, and everything moves very fast. So it's not about a number of years, so I don't need to answer that. It's the quality of the effort that counts. And anyone who puts in some good effort, just like in everything else in our life, will come out with the same result.
Two questions that relate to each other. Shayla from UK and Dicky from Macedonia. Basically, the first question is, how can you please clarify the term evil in Kabbalah? And basically, are you saying that the desire to receive is for ourselves, is evil? And then Dicky from Macedonia asks, isn't that dangerous, convincing that all the world is evil?
That's a good question. Let's answer Sheila first, because what is evil, right, in Kabbalah? Kabbalah is evil means this. Our nature is a desire to receive. Okay, I don't need to draw that. Our nature is a desire to receive. Marcos has probably drawn it. Everybody draws it. It's a cup. A desire to receive is not evil. If I'm using my desire to receive to fulfill my desire on the account of others, that's evil. So what is evil is my intention. Okay? I want to use somebody else in order to fulfill my desire. Okay? That's evil. That's the evil in Kabbalah. That I want something. Let's say, I want a house. That's not evil. If I go and kill someone, take his money and then buy a house, well, that's evil. Okay? So the desire is not evil. How I fulfill that, that's a question mark. Right? And the intention here, that is the only thing that needs to change. Now, in terms of who asked that question, Dicky from Macedonia,
Yep.
He said, isn't it dangerous convincing the world
that's absolutely right,
that we're all evil? We're not convincing anyone, and you can't actually convince anyone. Go out onto the street to a guy and say, you are an absolute egoist, you are filth, you are dangerous, and you are worse than a Satan. The guy's going to look at you and think you're a madman. And he has every right to do so. Because he's looking at his life. He's thinking, man, I'm working all day trying to make ends meet. I've got the kids to look after, if he's got any kids. And he's trying to put some order into his life. He looks at his life, he's got like 50, 60 years to live, if that's, and that's luckier nowadays, with everything going on in the world. And he's thinking, what are you talking about? Dude, I'm just trying to make ends meet, have a happy life, and I'm going to end up dead soon. So he won't believe you anyway. Okay? And that's a very good reason he won't. It's also a protective shell. We don't understand how our nature actually protects us. A person who does anything in life has a justification that he is right. Even if you kill someone, he says, look, I did this, it might have been wrong, but at that point in time, that this was this situation and I can justify it. Everybody does that. The religious do a great job, because for everything they do, there's something written in the book somewhere they can take out and say, look, that, it tells me to do that. A person is a protective shell. We're all protecting ourselves all the time. Our ego will not let us harm ourselves. So for every evil we do, everybody has their own justification. And we understand that. You just look at politics, you'll see. Okay? So you won't be able to convince anyone at all. If you have a point in the heart, you'll be able to attain it. You'll be able to see it. You'll be able to understand, that is evil in me, and I've got to do something about it. But that's wisdom already. That's an understanding, and that is taking action in order to correct something that is wrong, which comes through understanding. So it's not conviction at all.
Just to clarify for the Alexander from Sweden, is there a difference between bad and evil? For example, one thing may be good for me, but bad for another. But the intention might have been good to start with. But if the intention was not directed toward bestowal, the intention is really evil?
That's right. It is. I'll tell you why. Because at the end of the day, we're doing a favor, or we're thinking we're going to do something good for somebody else according to how we think so. Not according to how that person thinks so. Okay? That's why in Kabbalah it's a very important topic. I fulfill the desire of the other, but according to them, not according to me. Okay? That's why we need to feel others, sense others, just like they're a part of us. It's a very deep question. It's not a simple question, because it takes you into why we need to connect. Because I don't want to just fulfill the desire of others according to how I see what they want. Because the world is actually destroyed on people who think they've got a good intention. It's truly like that. So what is bad, what is evil? Actually, anything we do through our egoistic behavior towards others is evil, and it causes bad and harm. Most of the time we won't see it either, because the world is so concealed. We can't really see how a bad thought impacts the world. Scientists are now talking about it, how our actually thoughts influence ecology, and things like that. These topics are now popping up. If you read a lot of scientific articles, you'll find some really amazing, interesting things about how just a human's attitude towards something just impacts ecology. And we think it's completely like, how can that be? How can that be? How can I just sit and think about something and somewhere a hurricane will happen or an earthquake will happen? We just can't grasp it. But that's exactly how things are. So it's very, very tricky. And Kabbalists are in fact saying, listen, if you don't know what to do, just sit and don't do nothing. Okay? At least you won't cause harm. The true intention we learn about how to bestow is actually within the group. Because that's actually an environment where I can start to practice. Say, what is a good intention? Well, I see the guys doing that. I see the guys doing this. And I start to measure myself. I start to evaluate myself. Wait a minute. Yesterday I did that. You know what? That wasn't a very good thing to do. And afterwards, the true intention towards bestowal is actually starting to work on us after the revelation of the Creator. But starting to study Kabbalah is called a preparation period. Preparation for the revelation of light, let's say something like that, or preparation for the revelation of the Creator. Call it whatever you like. Let's say to see the truth. Okay, revelation, we want to see the truth. And in order to see the truth, we need to go to school first to prepare ourselves, just like we take the kids to school first before they face the realities of life. Okay, so we want to face the reality of spirituality. And we're going through a preparation period. That preparation period is actually giving us some tools where we start to measure ourselves to see what's good and what's not good. All right? How my intention can be directed and how it should be refrained. How I need to take some desires and say to myself, well, you know what? I need to keep these aside and don't want to look at them for a while. And these are all impressions we get through the group, through the study. That's why it's a very important topic.
It's exactly what you answered right now. Claudia from Portugal asks, basically, how can I know that I'm putting the right intention? So great answer. Two questions that relate to each other from UK and Israel, from here actually. Okay, it goes like this. Why none of your teachers are a woman? I noticed that also in other courses to study of Kabbalah in Israel. There is a limitation for women to teach this knowledge? And then Scott from UK, please explain the role of men and women in Kabbalah.
Okay.
So
let's come to the role of men and women in Kabbalah, okay, and then we'll come to Viviane from Israel. Now, Scott, the role of a man is correcting himself. A woman in Kabbalah is a very special portion of reality. Actually, if there was no women, okay, there would be nothing. We'd all be in the park playing football all day, drinking beer, okay, and we'd probably not go through any suffering at all. All right, but don't take this the wrong way. All of human development is based on women, because man wants to impress the woman, okay? So he needs to go out and hunt and do all these daily things to impress this desire. All right? A woman is known as a desire. And if there is no desire in the world, there would be nothing in the world. So our human development in terms of everything, okay, really depends on this thing called a woman. It's a very special part of reality. Very, very special part. And the role of a man is to fulfill this desire. That's why men run around doing things in order to impress women. Okay, it's our nature. That's how we're built. But it's very, very deep. It's really something really special, right? We run around trying to fulfill a desire, okay, in order to, I don't know, you might fancy someone, you might marry someone, or you might want to go out with someone. It's to fulfill a pleasure, all right? And a man, what he needs to do in Kabbalah is he actually needs to sort out himself in order to approach that desire in a right way. Okay? Now, in our society, if we look at the whole world, when we study Kabbalah, it's very important to take the whole of reality into account. Why? Because the Creator actually is talking to us through all the events that happen in the world. Now, if you look at the world, what do we have? We have a lot of couples that are divorced. The families are broken up. Nobody gets along with each other and so on. Why? Because we have a bad relationship. That bad relationship between us is because we've got a bad intention. Okay? I want to fulfill my desire according to how I want to feel good. So the role of a man is, in terms of fulfilling any desire, is to make sure that's done in a correct and proper way. So the main correction here depends on the man. Because the desire to receive, which is in reality known as the woman, okay, there's nothing wrong with it. Okay? This is what the Creator created, a desire to receive. It wants fulfillment, and the Creator wants to fulfill it. He created this desire to receive in order to fulfill it. Okay? And that's why women are a very special part of reality that needs that fulfillment, that wants that fulfillment. And the man who needs to run around and to do that fulfillment, to give that fulfillment, needs to get his intention right. And this is why the group work is really amongst the men. That's why sometimes, a lot of people ask, especially from Western countries, because it's a bit with all the new women rights and equality and everything, it's like, well, why are we separate? We're separate because it's the men who really need to get corrected, who really need to make their intentions right. Okay? And this is why the men bond together, work together. They need to come to a state called brotherly love. Okay? It means I think of my brothers before I think of myself. Now, if I can get that right, my whole attitude towards humanity can change. It's exactly one of the reasons. Now I'm coming to Viviane. Okay? So this is the men's work, right? Men have to really bond together, come to brotherly love. Instead of building themselves on the ruin of others to impress women, they need to build each other in order to fulfill the whole of the world with good things. Okay, the whole of reality. Okay, so that's the men's work. Correction in the group. Why? Now Vivian's asking, why are women not teaching? Well, first of all, if you got a bunch of guys who are the most egoistic, sick people on the planet, the last thing you want to put in front of them is a woman teaching them spirituality. Okay? First of all, we have to understand that a man is a weak creature. He's like a very, very feeble animal. And you put a woman in front of it, the guy will never keep a good intention. He won't. This is why, first of all, he needs to correct the intention before he can do something. Now, in spirituality, there's also a root to that. We understand through the sages that the Creator is always referred to as He. Okay? He doesn't mean He's a man. He means that He's a bestowing force, a giving force. Okay? The force that fulfills the desire. Therefore, a man's role, in order to fulfill that desire, is to completely correct himself. And when he needs to do that, he needs to do it with the men. Okay? Therefore, he receives the light from a factor called a male element. And we're definitely not talking about sexes here. Okay? I'm sure in your intermediate course, they'll do an introduction to Zohar, I'm sure. They must be doing it somewhere. We'll see also an introduction to Zohar that when we read these texts, they're really not talking about men and women at all. They're just talking about two attributes. Okay? So the attribute of correction needs to flow from a man because that's where the intention is. Okay? That is why there's a kind of a restriction, a tradition that comes from that. A man who corrects himself, then he teaches others how to correct themselves. And that is how the light flows through. All right? So once again, I'd like to emphasize there's no sexism here whatsoever, but there is the laws of nature, and that laws of nature also reflected in our studying and our study principles, obviously.
How do we know when we are learning with our heart and not with our minds? Scott from UK.
Scott from UK, you can only learn based on a feeling, but that feeling needs to be accompanied with an understanding afterwards. Okay? So I feel good. In my heart, I'm at rest. I'm fine. Good sensation. Upon that, I need to add to that an understanding. Now, that understanding may take a bit of time. It doesn't just come. All right? For example, a baby understands it's being fed and it's happy, but by the time it understands, it develops the mind to understand why it felt so good when it was being fed, is when he grows up a little bit. Okay? Because he understands who feeds them, how they're related to them, how his or her mother is taking care of her or him with love and so on. So the understanding comes later. But a sensation of the heart is something we must always try to measure because our whole development is through sensing. Okay? So it's a very important question. Also, these questions are not, they're very deep questions. Opening up the heart to actually feel something is tremendous work. So once you begin to start feeling things in the heart, it's very important to start evaluating them, to try to find out the cause and consequence, because that's how you build a mind on top of the feeling. And this is actually why we cry in the world as well, because sometimes what we feel doesn't really match what we understand. And because we don't understand the emotional thing that we're going through, we burst out and we cry. Okay, and that's an emotional outbreak because we haven't come to the understanding of the feeling. It's also cause and consequence.
Dan from Long Beach, California asks, so what about the gay men? should they learn from women? I just want to add something to this. First of all, it doesn't really matter who you are, where you come from, because the point in the heart is something that deep inside of your heart, and it's I don't know how to explain it, but this really comes from above. It's that a piece of the Creator itself, that has to go and connect, to be as one. I'm sure that we have groups all over the world, and I'm sure that, and even here in Petach Tikva, in Israel, we have gay men, and it doesn't really matter. And also want to add to this that when the person starts to correct himself, and basically all the humanity, we will see how everything is going to be as it was before. I'm not saying that it's good or bad thing, but as soon as we're going to come a little bit closer, just a little bit closer to the correction, we will see how everything is going to be as a nature, as exactly
Let's put it this way. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter whether a person is gay or not. I tell you why it doesn't matter. Simply because it has nothing to do with our soul. Our body is meat and bone. And it gets pleasure from, some people like hamburgers, some people like vegetarian food, some people are vegan. You have all kinds of people in the world. It doesn't really matter. It's just our corporeal nature. And our body, just like any other animal, dies. It dies because it's not important that much. Okay? It's important while we're here. Okay, obviously, it's important while we're here to develop the soul. But other than that, we don't really give it much importance. All right? So there is no learning from women, to be honest with you. All right? There is no learning from women. Maybe I wasn't so clear. The teaching is always from a man. It's because the man is the intention, so a corrected intention passes on the wisdom to people who want to get corrected. So it doesn't matter if you're gay, doesn't matter if you're not gay, doesn't matter who you are, what you are. Okay, at the end of the day, if there's an aspiration, that point in the heart that's awakened and it's like really, really pushing you in order to attain the purpose of life, then you just go with the process. You start studying. You will feel and see the changes yourself. In Kabbalah, we don't tell people what to do. Okay, that's what religious people do. You go to any religious thing, they say you must do this, you mustn't do this, you can't do that. And it's just like, what are you on about? Okay. In Kabbalah, we study. We never forget that the Creator's light is affecting us. Then you see the changes. That's why we don't tell people what to do. Because then you can't discern where the Creator's light is. If you just sat and studied with us, in time, you see changes. And then you go, oh my God, light has been affecting me. Why? Because you change.
Paulo from London.
And change is inner. So I'm not talking about, your sexuality or anything else. Your inner, your intentions change. The way you look at life changes. Your internality changes.
Paulo from London. So will we always reincarnate in the same sex over and over?
Yes, we will. I'll tell you why. It's a nice question. Once again, the questions are very nice indeed.
Very good.
This is not working.
Today's something special, really special.
Today the light is really on us, eh? This is the kind of lesson I like. Now, if the Creator already created us in the world of infinity, in perfection, right? And we are all parts of this one soul, right? We're all parts of Adam. All of us. It means that each and every one of us has a specific place in that jigsaw puzzle to fit in. All of us have a specific role. Okay? Therefore, when we're in this world, all shattered, right? All over the shop, as they say. We're all over the place, right? In all our life cycles, when we get to that level where we got the dots in the heart, what we have to do, obviously, then, is correct our place originally in there. So if I'm a woman, I'm always coming back as a woman. If I'm a man, I'm always coming back as a man, because I have to actually correct that spot where I was created originally. Okay? That's a very important point. It's a very good point too. Otherwise, we'd never get corrected, because we'd be all mixed up. We'd be all over the place. So the Creator is very smart. He says, look, Mutlu, you're a part of, I don't know, let's say the elbow, right? I'm a part of here. And says, you got to correct that part in the soul of Adam, all right, in the body of Adam, let's say. Okay, it's a soul, obviously, not a body, but let's just give it an example. You're the elbow part here, and you have to correct that part. So all my reincarnations, all my development, reincarnation is development, okay? We're not just talking about bodies dying and coming back. We're talking about every second of our lives, everything we went through in order to get to the purpose of life, okay, is in order to develop that specific point where I belong to. Okay? So I have all that history accumulated, all the experience accumulated, and everything else that I've got to go through in order to correct that single point. Okay? So that's why everybody adds their dime in, and it makes $1.
I'm sorry, we have 5 minutes left. We have a few announcements. Guys, I have to be honest with you, I'm so excited. This lesson is so great. Like, okay. Q&A session, we have to do it one more time, definitely. Right. We have hold on a sec. We have a couple of announcements here. Is this the 12th?
Yeah, Winter 2012 Fundamentals. So Sunday will be the final class of your fundamental course. So congratulations on that. So Sunday is your final course. Your intermediate semester begins on Wednesday, April 11. So Wednesday, April 11. Let's write that down. Okay, intermediate course. Intermediate starts on 11 April. Okay, so that's when you start. And your next Sunday is your final lesson for the fundamentals course. And then what we've got is, you will be studying articles by Rabash, which was Dr. Lightman's teacher, and the structure of creation. Now that is really, really beautiful. The Wednesday class will be at 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as usual, but the Sunday class will only be offered once. It will be at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will be posting the new schedule on the website and in the forum as soon as it is finalized. So please follow up the forum and the website not to miss out, because that Sunday lesson is going to be one-off. Now, the new Spring 2012 Fundamental course begins on April 4. So the fundamentals, again, you've got that starting. You should invite your friends if you guys had a good time, or if you'd want to do it again. Okay, you can do it again if you feel like you missed out a few lessons.
Site.
So you need to go to the registration site, which is Kabbalah.info.
Yep.
Kabbalah.info. Okay? So you can go there, you can register, if you had a good time, why not tell your friends and family? Okay? If you didn't have a good time, then there's nothing to talk about.
Here's one more.
And now you've got daylight savings, time changes still affect us on Sunday. So be sure to check your lesson time using the link on the link in the lesson reminder. Okay, so there's a link there. Check that out to see what time it is, because daytime, nighttime savings, and so on are going to change the times. All right, I'll keep that there. Anything else? Alex, thank you for your company.
Thank you very much.
Guys, I hope you had a nice evening, nice lesson. It's really hard to fill Marcos's big shoes. He's a really nice guy, great guy, and a great lecturer at the Learning Center. So hopefully I didn't disappoint you guys too much, and hopefully you guys will have a great lesson on Sunday.
Thank you very much, Mutlu.
Thank you for everyone's attendance.
Thank you.
Bye now.